And hello, I'm Dave Wagner. Welcome to another episode of
Come On Down
with Rich Fields. Great to have you here today. Great being with you.
It's nice to be here, Dave. I'll tell you that. That's for sure. What are we on? Episode 9 now?
Episode 9. I think we are. Did you have a good weekend?
I did. It was busy.
Yeah.
It was busy weather-wise
Sure.
in Tampa Bay, so I was a little busy with that. But
There was
yeah,
a little lightning out there. This is a podcast all about Rich's time in Hollywood, working on The Price is Right, both with Bob Barker and Drew Carey as well. And it's really about game shows in general, because over the years, you have lent your voice to a lot of different game shows.
9 total.
9 different game shows. So this is really all about bells, buzzers, anything game show related. So we are glad you are here today. You know, people know you best for The Price is Right. They don't always know you probably about some of the other things you might have done.
Yeah.
So we've talked about The Price is Right. We've talked about Game Show Marathon.
Yep.
Your time on Game Show Marathon was 7 different game shows? Is that right?
That's exactly right.
Okay. So
Ding, 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 ding. What did he win, Johnny? A lovely etagere.
there you go. You still have it.
Do you know what an etagere, the difference between a curio cabinet and an etagere is?
I don't. Not really.
A curio cabinet has a back to it.
Oh.
An etagere does not.
It does not.
I had to ask Kathy Greco that one day. I said, what the heck is an etagere?
And Kathy Greco is?
She was a producer of Price is Right for many years with Roger Dobkowitz. They were sidekicks, 1 and 2 to Bob, for many, many years.
So when you go to a furniture store, you know how to order it properly.
I do, in fact. I like to go in there and ask the guy, do you know the difference between a curio and an etagere?
Well, let me tell you. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you say, and look what I just ordered. I ordered a brand new curio cabinet.
That's right.
So let's talk about some of the other things you've done, because we know you've done a lot there, and some things you spent a lot of time doing. Other things you were there for a shorter period of time. Price is Right, long time. So let's talk about, maybe if we can, Wheel of Fortune, because that's a fan favorite. I love Wheel of Fortune.
You know, do you like it?
I do.
I love, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a simple show, but it is an effective show.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And I got the job because of Charlie O'Donnell, the legendary announcer of the show, having passed away.
Right.
So it was November 1st of, boy, I wish I knew the year right off the bat, but we can Google that real quick. I just remember the day. It was the day after Halloween, and it was late in the afternoon, and my phone rang at our house. We lived in Beverly Hills at the time, and not because we could afford it. It's just that it was so close to The Price is Right. When there was like a condo that came up for sale in this building, I said, yeah, let's take it. So the phone rings, and it was Harry Friedman, the executive producer, long-time executive producer of both Wheel and Jeopardy.
Okay.
And he says, Rich? I said, yeah. He says, Harry Friedman, executive producer of Wheel of Fortune, how are you? And I'm kind of perplexed. Number one, how did he get my number?
And what were you doing at the time?
I was in my studio, in the back room.
So were you done with The Price is Right at that point? What was going on?
I had left The Price is Right already, yes. And I was working part-time for CBS News in L.A. for the duopoly out there. KCBS and KCAL 9.
The local CBS owned and operated stations.
Yeah, they were trying to make room for me. They knew I had just came off Price is Right, and they had called me right away. And they said, hey, we understand you're a meteorologist, you know, come on down. And so I went and I talked to those guys, and they were like, look, we want to have you join the staff. We just need to make some room somehow. But in the meantime, will you do some fill-in stuff here and there? And, you know, we'll start working you in. And so that's what I was doing. I really wasn't working full-time yet, but there was this promise of work to come.
Sure.
And I was back in my studio working, and Harry calls and he says, hey, look, something's come up, Rich, and I need your help. And I said, what's that? And he said, Charlie O'Donnell passed away. I said, oh, my God, you're kidding me. He said, yeah, it was early this morning. His family called me right away, and I've been on the phone with Sony executives trying to figure out what to do. We've got I think it was 3 taping days coming up, starting tomorrow, you know, the very next day. And he said, look, I need you to come in and fill in, like, boom, right, you know, hit the ground running and start doing shows tomorrow. Can you do it? And I said, yes, I can do it. I mean, I knew nothing about the production of the show, but I guess you do one, you can do any of them, right? I mean, at least that's what I thought.
Right, but part of it is just the enthusiasm in your voice, I'm sure, too, right?
I hope so. And you know what? That enthusiasm actually got me in trouble there. So when we get around to why I didn't get the job, that comes back up again. So Harry Friedman says, look, I need you in the studio tomorrow morning at, whatever, 7:30, 8 o'clock. Come to Sony. I'll have everything mapped out for you. I have a parking place for you. And I walked in, and this is the first thing I saw when I walked in. That is right on the front of the studio. And if you've ever gone as a fan to wait in line to go see the show, that's what you see out front. And so I stood there real quick, and I think Harry actually took that photo with me. If not Harry, then a security guard, but whoever met me out front that time. And so right away it was boom, you're into Wheel of Fortune and everything that comes with it. But I'm still carrying with me the fact that their legendary announcer of decades worth of shows had just passed away.
Yeah, I mean, what a voice.
Oh my God, Charlie O'Donnell, what a voice. Many, many years of announcing. I mean, he started with Dick Clark back in 58 on Bandstand.
Oh, yeah.
So, Charlie been around a long, long time and did a lot of shows, a lot of award shows. I mean, he was a, I won't say a mentor because, he didn't mentor me, but he was certainly somebody that I listened to and watched and did, tried to mimic if I could some of his styling, you know what I mean? But Charlie,
we all had those people when we were young, where we just listened to them, and it's like, wow, if only I could do that. If I could do it like that.
Yeah, exactly. If I could do it like that. And nobody ever, unless you're a voice guy like Rich Little or somebody like that, nobody's going to sound like Charlie, but you can get some of the nuances of Charlie. You know what I mean? And so it was a crazy day. I'll tell you what. There's a guy on the internet, his name's actually Jimmy Carter, not the president, but his name's Jimmy Carter. And he's kind of known for going around and interviewing people on game shows and things like that. And I connected with him a couple of days ago because he had some of the best footage I ever saw of behind the scenes of Wheel of Fortune.
No kidding.
Yeah, and the day I walked in there, this is kind of like what was going on. And I'm going to play you this little video for you real quick. Let me see if I can get it to rack up right and for us. And what you guys are about to see is literally the staff and crew the morning before a show going through setup. And this is the same. You instead of the wheel being there, you could put Plinko there. It's the same exact stuff for The Price is Right or any other game show out there. So Dave and I are going to put in our IFB so we can. Oh, I don't want to spoil that. That one's coming up. Hang on a second. Stick with me. All right. So this is behind the scenes stuff of just walking in the studio, and the production crew's already in there and they're hard at work. They're lining up shots, they're painting, they're getting the car ready for giveaways. They're doing stock ad cards where they literally put up something that says Metamucil, something like that, and then they shoot it and they still store it. So here's a guy putting stars on the back of the wheel behind the car, and it's just painting, painting the floor underneath the turntable. That's what they call this thing, the turntable.
Is that just touching it up at this point?
Well, no, you can actually look. See where the floor isn't actually even painted yet? So for this particular episode, they actually changed the color of the floor. So he's literally painting around everything that's there, and he's painting the turntable and so on and so forth. They're getting all the set pieces together. You can obviously see the audience there. They're setting up shots for the car and things like that, but it's what goes on behind the scenes. Here's the art cards. These are called art cards, and during the show you'll hear now Jim Thornton, the announcer, say, it's a trip to Belize, and then they'll show a stock photo of Belize, and then they maybe roll some video from the hotel or whatever. So these ladies are literally holding Campbell's soup, good, or whatever this is,
The date lover's choice.
Yeah, see, so the pitted dates.
Yeah.
So they still store these, even though a video camera is shooting it, they just take one frame and they still store that frame in the system and back in the director's booth. So now this camera is released so he can shoot Pat, Vanna, whatever they need, and not have to shoot these art cards. So there's a lot of pre-production that goes into every show.
I have to believe they're not doing that these days, are they?
I would have to believe it's digital now. Yeah. I would really have to believe that they have these digitally stored over the years and have what they need, and they no longer do art cards.
Look at that. You can tell the date of this by the car up there.
Yeah. What do you think? What year?
I don't know. Well, we know it was post-presidency Jimmy Carter because he shot this.
We want to thank Jimmy Carter for the use of his video and film and so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
But it's a behind-the-scenes stuff that many fans don't get a chance to see. You know what I mean? They see Pat, they see Vanna, they see people out spinning the wheel, but they don't see any of the pre-production work They literally go through a whole show. They rehearse. People used to say, "Oh, look, they're getting mannequins dressed and ready. Every little nuance, every little nook and cranny is taken care of. Everything's turned toward the camera perfectly. Flowers, flags. Watch this." I mean, a guy literally comes up because he doesn't like the way the flag is tilting, so he's going to crinkle it a little bit so that on camera it sits the right way, so they get the most out of every shot.
You know, I said at the beginning that this is a relatively simple show, but when you see this behind-the-scenes stuff, you realize how complicated it is and how every detail, is important.
The production is complicated. The game is simple. The game is fairly simple. But I just find it fascinating to see what they go through, putting up the set pieces and getting everything ready. Long before Pat and Vanna walk out, the entire crew will go through a full rehearsal with their shot sheets. We talked about shot sheets, one of our first shows. They've all got them for wheel, just like we did at Price is Right, and every cameraman knows where he needs to be, when, what act, what time, what he's going to do. Look at these high-angle shots. They get that pedestal up as far as they can and shoot down on the wheel.
Wow. Now, when you walked in here, you had done the Price is Right. You've done some other game shows. Now you're thrown into this. Were you thoroughly confused when you looked at this and said, "Oh my goodness, what have I got myself into?"
Not confused. There was some trepidation because they hit me right away with, "Hey, you need to get up in your dressing room and start cutting some of the pre-production for the show." And I was like, "Oh, I thought it was all live. I thought I did it live to camera."
Because you had done that at the Price is Right.
Correct. And they were like, "Oh no, there's lots of what's called wraparound. There's lots of wraparound. The intro is going to be live for you, and some of the prize reads are going to be live for you during the show. But everything else is all wraparound, and from tickets, for tickets, that kind of thing, or whatever it is. If you want to be an audience member, go here, go there, and all that kind of stuff." So there was a lot of pre-production to do, and it was all done up in, they said your dressing room, but in fact it was Charlie O'Donnell's dressing room. And there's a couple of shots of me working up there. That's literally Charlie O'Donnell's room where he did all his voiceover from pre-production for the show and everything. So that's early in the morning, long before the show ever starts.
Huh.
And
is that just a microphone right there?
Yeah, microphone, headset, so I can hear the directors in back, and look at the reams of copy that are going to be gone through during the show. I forget who shot these. I don't think it was Pat or Vanna shot a couple of pictures for me while I was there, but these aren't the ones. I got to believe Harry Friedman or somebody else shot these photos for me. And I said, "Hey," if this is my last day, I just want something for posterity. Would you guys mind? And he was like, "Not at all, golly." As a matter of fact, the room was pretty much sanitized of anything of Charlie's. They had boxed it up. They were going to take it back to his family and everything.
And this is just really days after his death. Hours. Wow.
One day, the next day, the next morning, 8 o'clock.
You would think that there would be somebody out there that they would have on board. It's like, if anything happens to Charlie, if Charlie's out sick for a day or whatever, you're our number 2 that we're going to go to. You're the guy. Why don't they have this?
I don't know why, or maybe they did and that person couldn't make it. I'm not sure what the reason is. We did it Price is Right. The standby guy for me was a guy that did The Family Feud for many, many years, Burton Richardson.
Oh, sure.
He was also the voice of Arsenio Hall. Arsenio Hall! Yeah. Burton Richardson.
Sure.
Great announcer, fantastic announcer. I missed one show. I told you I missed Bob Barker's last Christmas show because of laryngitis, and they called Burton in right away. So he was our standby guy, and I don't know why Wheel didn't have one. If they did, maybe he couldn't make it that day.
Yeah.
It could have been Johnny Gilbert for all I know.
Yeah.
But for one reason or another, they called me.
So you get in there, you are trying to learn the system, these wraparounds that you're trying to, and how long did it take you to feel like you sort of understood the format?
It wasn't that day at all. Yeah. It was a few days down the line that I felt more comfortable coming in the morning. I was still a little bit unnerved. I'm with a brand new crew, brand new set of people. I've got new executive producers, new directors, and everybody's barking at you for a different reason, whatever it may be. And it was I'll tell you, the director of the show at the time, I won't even. I was going to get into why I didn't get the job, but I won't even get into it. But the director of the show at the time was pretty particular. I'll just put it that way.
No.
And he was. I used the word barking. He was probably the only one that was barking at me. You know what I mean? He even called me the night before the show. I mean, you know, so I get off the phone with Harry, and he says, "Okay, I'm going to pass your number along to the director because he said he wanted to speak with you as well." I said, "The director? Oh, okay." I mean, I didn't know why.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not on camera or anything like that. And so Mark Corbin was the guy's name, and so Mark calls me up, and I've never met him before in my life. And he says, "Rich?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Look, this isn't The Price is Right. This is Wheel of Fortune." I said, "Well, I understand that." He goes, "See, you know, I don't want you doing that Price is Right announcing here. That doesn't fly here." I said, "No, I understand, Mark. I mean, I've done dozens of things in my life, you know." And I said, "You know, I understand. I watched the show. I know Charlie's patter. I know the delivery. You know, it's much more subdued. It's not you know, over the top excited. Here it comes. You know, it's nothing like that at all. You know. And now Pat Sajak and Vanna White. I mean, it's that subdued.
Kind of straightforward.
Yes. Yeah. And so this guy's like, "Look, I don't care what you think. You know, you just need to listen to me and do what I tell you tomorrow morning." I was like, "Well, sure, Mark. Obviously, you know, I'm not confident in this at all." And I said, "Well, golly, you know." In my head, I'm thinking, great way to inspire, you know, jackass. I mean, I just, I couldn't believe it, you know, and it was so unnerving. That got me more upset than having to go in and do a new show.
Sure. No wonder you were going in with some trepidation.
Yeah. So because of the phone call the night before. And so, you know, here I am. I'm in Charlie's booth, and I'm going through some of these reads, and you know, it wasn't so much that I was doing anything wrong. That's for sure. It was just you know, do this again, and this time do it like this, and this time pause here and do that, and it was really nitpicky. It wasn't anything helpful. That's for sure.
Sure. Every show has a personality. You had come from The Price is Right, which had its own, I'm sure, vibe. Different television stations have different vibes too. Was it very different from The Price is Right? Just the mood, the vibe at Wheel of Fortune?
Well, yes. Number one, remember, I'm walking in, and I'm trying to be as sweet as I can because Charlie's family may be watching. I mean, there was just a death, and you could feel it. You could feel it in the studio and the people, and you know, here I am walking in, and you know, shirt and tie, much like, you know, I'm dressed. Well, you can see me right there, much like I'm dressed right there, and nobody. You know, Harry Friedman's like, "Hey, this is Rich Fields. He's going to be the announcer, you know, in the interim time," and people are just saying, you know, hey, they weren't like, "Oh, hey, welcome to the show." It wasn't like that at all.
Yeah, they were mourning.
Yeah, I mean, and it was a shock to everybody because many of them didn't find out until that morning.
How long had he been there? Do you know approximately?
I'd have to look it up. Decades.
Decades.
Long time.
Okay.
Yeah, long time.
Wow. So people were kind of in shock, and so you did, you know, you walked in when the mood was...
Trying to be reverent.
Was pretty tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a tough thing. I mean, did you feel that same thing? Because you did kind of the same thing at The Price is Right.
Came in after a man passed away.
Right.
There was a lot more time that had spanned, and there were other guys that tried out for the show, and remember I had a whole week's tryout with Bob, then I think they brought in another guy, and then I had another week's tryout with Bob. So there was a little more easing into the crew and cast and management than this. This was like birth by fire, and just, hey, can you go in and do this? And Harry was confident. He took me aside later that morning. I told him what Mark had said to me that night, and he apologized. He said he never should have done that. You know, Mark's got his own style, and you know, blah blah blah. And you know, I'm not trying to make excuses for him, he said, but you know, I'm sorry that happened. I said, because I'm a bit unnerved. This is before the show taping. I had already done the pre-production in the morning in the booth, or in Charlie's dressing room, not in the booth yet to do the show, and Harry was as apologetic as he could be. It was tough. It was a tough situation.
Yeah. Who was, you know, we always remember those people who were the most welcoming to us sometimes when we were new on a job. Who was the most welcoming person to you?
Harry Friedman, number one. I think he understood my situation coming in.
Yeah, the position you're in. Difficult one.
I'm not trying to take over for anybody. I don't know if that's how the cast and crew saw it, but here I'm just trying. It's literally millions of dollars in production money. If they cancel a taping day, I mean, that studio then is filled with Wheel of Fortune stuff, and it's dark, and they can't lease it out. There's no way you can lease it out like that. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars a day in production costs that are going to go down the drain.
Sure.
And no show can afford that.
Yeah.
I don't care who owns it. So the decision was made, let's just get somebody else in there and let's just keep going. Let's just try to bang these shows out.
Okay, so you got through that first show, right? And then how did it feel after that as you moved along?
It was great. I had a lot of fun. I mean, the announcer's booth when I was there was right next to the audience stadium seating. It was kind of off to one side and completely enclosed and dark, black, pitch black, a little pen light, a little TV monitor so I could see,
Smaller audience?
Much.
Yes.
Much smaller than Price is Right. Yes, if Price is Right was 300, maybe there's 100 at Wheel. I mean, we can check with them and see, but they had a guy do warm-up. I didn't have to do warm-up. Harry told me that the day before. I said, do I have to go out and do 15 minutes? No, somebody on our production staff is going to take care of that. We don't want you to have to worry about that. Certainly not now. You're coming in, again, birthed by fire, and we just want you to get the show down and the copy down and things like that.
Was there less live performance on your end than there was at The Price is Right?
Oh, God, yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. I mean, other than, the opening, and then the crowd screams, Wheel of Fortune. And, ladies and gentlemen, Pat Sajak and Vanna White.
Right.
That's the open.
That's it.
That was it.
Yeah.
And then the show starts, and they're going about things, and then, Pat might say, hey, we're going to take a break, but Rich has this for you. And it would be, one of those still stored art cards. Metamucil, if you something,
sure,
and or somebody would win something, and Pat would say, "Oh, you just won a trip to Belize," and Rich is going to tell you all about it. Rich, thanks, Pat, and a trip for two to Belize, flying out of Los Angeles. Just about whatever the copy was, and so it was easy enough for me. I was just trying to make sure that I was keeping an even keel on my tone and stuff, because that's how Wheel was.
Yeah, I'm sure it was an adjustment for you, though.
Huge. Huge, because, here I am doing 6-7 years of out-of-body excitement kind of television, and this was so subdued.
Huh. And that's by design.
By design, absolutely.
That's interesting. So you had your prep period there, and when a contestant goes on the show, I would assume that they have some sort of prep, or somebody guides them, because when I watch it, people seem fairly smooth, like they really know the format of this.
Oh yeah. Well, there's tryouts first. There's you got to pass a test. There's tryouts, and then the morning of taping, you'll do 6 shows in a day. Remember, it's only a half hour, so you're banging them out like one after another. So they'll bring in 12, 15, 20 possible contestants in the morning, and they'll get them, where you saw those folks out getting the set ready. Right. Well, once the crew is done setting up, a staff member will bring out all of the wannabe contestants, and they'll literally let them spin the wheel for the first time. Yeah. Huh. And Jimmy Carter's got some great video of this, as a matter of fact. Okay. Let me dig it up while we're talking. And you'll hear this guy prompting them, spin it hard, make sure it goes all the way around, what did it land on? Yell it out, what letter do you want? Yell it out, So
they want enthusiasm. And
they want the contestant to be heard. So Pat's not like, what'd you say? So
this makes sense, because when you watch it at home, you hear them yell, it's like, we can hear you. R!
Yeah. Well, they got a microphone on, and the whole staff and the director's booth and everybody can hear that. But, in that open studio and with a live audience clapping and laughing, it's a whole other story. Even though Pat may only be 6-8 feet away, you don't always hear everything.
Sure, and you can tell that sometimes. He'll ask again, what was that?
Right, so check out this video. Okay. Very few people have seen stuff like this, but this is a practice.
300.
Good, give me a letter.
M.
A little louder.
M.
Good, don't forget, really belt it out. Ready to hear that letter. Okay, Sherry, follow through with it. You're on, Sherry, let's go. Linda.
1,000.
you letter?
M.
What'd you land on? 300. Your letter. T. Good. All right. Okay, you guys are real good. Do it that way in the game. You got to. All right. You really got to break your sweat. Right? We got.
Interesting. So that's the behind the scenes where they're coaching them before. That's why when they go into this, they know what they're doing.
Most of the time. You hope.
Yeah.
You hope. But yeah, there's a lot of coaching going on. They want it to be flawless and go right. They can stop tape if they want, but you generally don't. You don't want to.
Where do you stand in relation to the wheel?
The announcer?
Right.
Okay, so let me find on this previous tape here. Let me back this up a little bit. There was a shot of the audience grandstands here, and I will show you exactly where the announcer's booth is. There it is.
Okay.
So that is the audience section of Wheel of Fortune.
Right.
And,
pretty small.
and it goes up. There's kind of stadium-ish seating up from that.
Okay.
So the announcer's booth would be just to the right. See that guy sitting there with his arm over the chair on the far right-hand side of the bottom? The announcer's booth is to the right of that, all self-contained and enclosed.
Oh.
You would never even know it was there if you were an audience member. And it's completely sealed up and soundproof and everything. And like I said, it's pitch dark in there except for one little light and one little monitor to see what you're doing. The light, obviously, so you can read your copy. But it's small. It's small and it's confining and a little claustrophobic.
When the audience says Wheel of Fortune at the beginning, is that all pre-taped?
It takes them hours to get the audience to chant that at the right. No, it's all pre-taped.
Pre-taped, I assumed.
At some point, they got a really good audience to Wheel of Fortune.
It's the same one
and
all
they
the time.
taped it, and they
Yeah.
just,
They use it.
It's funny you say that because I thought that myself.
yeah.
I was like, does the audience? And so, you know, the show's opening and everything, and I'm there,
Yes.
and I'm in this little darkened booth, and I think I was like, oh no, this isn't the audience at all. This
Yes.
is absolutely pre-roll tape.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, they've got to get it right every time. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. You can't leave that up to.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So let's talk about Pat and Vanna. Can we a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
So what were they like? When you first met them, what were they like?
Very welcoming, very giving.
Yeah.
It was actually in Vanna's dressing room. Harry Friedman took me upstairs right away and said, "Look, that's your dressing room there." And as a matter of fact, while we're here, he knocked on Vanna's door, and she said, "Come on in." And I walked in, and Pat was actually sitting in a chair. Vanna was on the other side of the room, and they just happened to be speaking with each other. No doubt about Charlie passing away the day before.
Sure.
And Pat stood up, Vanna stayed sitting, and you know, I'm dressed, you know, shirt and tie, just like, and they said, "Hey, Pat, Vanna, this is Rich Fields. He's going to try to fill in today for Charlie O'Donnell." And Pat was like, right away, he's like, "Wow, boy, you know, you got your work cut out for you. You know, I totally understand. You know, just do the best you can, and you'll hit it out of the park. You know, I know your work on Price is Right. You know, don't sweat it." And Vanna, I went over to her. I said, "Well, pleasure to meet you." And she's as sweet as can be. Both of them, just as sweet as can be. So really giving people in that way. They took a lot of the the trepidation I was talking about away once they were like, "Don't worry about it. Just go in and do the best you can. You're coming in under horrible circumstances.
Yeah.
So just do the best you can."
You know, when you look at them, you know, on TV, it seems like, and I know people talk about Vanna White, you know, and her just turning letters on there. It is a more complicated job than I think people give people credit for. Being a game show host, it's like, oh, it's the easiest job in the world. There's a lot going on around you.
There's a lot going on around you, yeah, and she may have what you think is an easy job, but still, I mean, she's got to pay attention. She has to know the puzzle.
Sure.
She has to know the puzzle. I mean, she certainly waits for the letters to light up where they're going to go, but sometimes she'll be half on her way there before they light it up, so you know she knows the puzzle.
That's right. Yeah.
But no, they work in sync so well, and Pat.
They make it look easy.
They make it look easy, and Pat is so. What's the word? Gregarious, and he's such a comedian. I mean, there's another guy that started as a weatherman at KNBC in Los Angeles. That's one of the that's one of the reasons after not making it in game shows. My first decade out there that I went back to school, back to Mississippi State, studied meteorology to go back out there because I heard of all these guys that got plucked off of, doing local weather and news.
This is the most singular focused human being on the planet. He had a plan to go out to Hollywood, be on game shows, and my goodness, I mean, it's impressive.
Yeah, it worked out. It worked out. And I told Pat later, it was actually, we all went to Charlie O'Donnell's funeral, and it happened to be at a Catholic church that I was a parishioner of at the time. I had no idea Charlie and his family were parishioners there. And so the funeral, oh my God, the number of stars at this guy's funeral. And here, you think, he's an announcer on a game show. But you got to remember all the shows he did. I mean, just a crazy amount of television shows and specials and everything. There were other studio execs there. There were other stars there. It was just nutty. The A-listers that were at Charlie O'Donnell's funeral. He was well loved. Well loved. So after the funeral, we're standing out front. What was the point of this? Pat had said something to me. Forget what my point was now. I was just so enthralled about remembering about the funeral and so many famous people there. It was just crazy.
Yeah. Well, it is always tough taking over after a legend, no matter if it's in local television or or on the national level. It is tough to come in there, and you're filling in. I assume you wanted the job there.
Yes, sure, certainly, but it really, I wasn't like, I was doing my best.
Yeah.
Anything I ever did, I just wanted to do my best, even if it was my last day. But it wasn't like I was gunning for it.
Sure.
CBS News had already said, look, we got a place for you, and I was going to go back to meteorology, and it was to be a weatherman in Los Angeles. I mean, if you're going to be a weather guy, I mean, that to me, I was always like, enamored with that. I to have a house in the Hollywood Hills and be a nighttime weatherman on TV. Oh, that'd be great,
Yeah, sunny and 76 today. Sunny and 76 tomorrow.
A few Santa Ana winds picking up. That's about as bad as it gets there. And so the promise of that about to happen really took a lot of the angst off of auditioning for this job. But I didn't get it in the end anyway. So
yeah. Do you want to talk about why you didn't?
I can only speculate. And that's because of the director, Mark Corbin, I'm pretty sure. He obviously had the ear of Harry and the people at Sony. And for whatever reason, I mean, I'd never worked with the guy, never crossed paths with him, but for one reason or another, I mean, I could just tell by that phone call the night before, he was just so, I don't even know if I can pull up the right words, like almost demeaning to me, you know what I mean?
Well,
Or maybe it was The Price is Right. Maybe there was something about The Price is Right. Maybe he didn't get that job and didn't like me because I came from there. I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know. But I'm sure that's why I didn't get it.
And it might have been, you're the first person out of the gate after
Charlie
O'Donnell died, and it just may have been a protective thing, for Charlie. And you just never know these things, and so often you'll never know, and you drive yourself nuts trying to speculate why didn't this come through for me?
Right. So they ended up auditioning a couple of guys. There was a poll. There was an About.com poll done. Who would you like to be the announcer on The Price is Right? I remember this. There it is right there.
Oh, wow.
Who would you like to be the announcer on Wheel of Fortune?
Yeah.
I mean, there's Johnny Gilbert,
right,
the announcer of Jeopardy. Rich Fields. Yeah. Randy West. Randy West also tried out for The Price is Right. Randy actually filled in for Rod a number of times when Rod was very ill and sick.
Gotcha.
So Randy got some votes there. Pat and Vanna, nobody voted for that. Someone else, 1%. But overwhelmingly, on this About.com game show poll, fans were at least saying, Rich.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's...
You're a familiar voice to them, so...
I suppose.
Yeah.
I suppose. And maybe more so than name, as an announcer.
Sure.
Well,
we should talk about, this show was wildly successful.
Yeah.
Wheel of Fortune. Price is Right, same thing.
Yeah.
Jeopardy, same thing. Why do you think it was so successful?
It's funny you say that. This guy I was telling you about, Jimmy Carter,
right?
In one of his videos, he actually asks Charlie O'Donnell the same question many years ago. And let me play for you.
Okay.
This is Charlie O'Donnell's answer to the very same question Dave just asked. Check this out.
Yeah, long time ago. Everybody can play it. It's one of those games that is not taxing. The housewife can be ironing or walk past the television set and take a look at it and stop and solve the puzzle and go on with their work. Anybody can play this. It's Hangman. It's a game we all played as children. And Pat and Vanna make it so easy. But I think that's the secret.
Huh.
So there it is. I mean, it's basically Hangman, and everybody can play it. So, it's a game you played as a kid, so it's fairly easy to play.
That's so interesting. So, but he talks about how Pat and Vanna make it look so easy, and that's the key with all this stuff. I mean, whether or not you're announcing behind the scenes, whether or not you're the host of the show, or you're turning letters on the show, the key is to make it look kind of effortless.
Right. And Pat, with his sense of humor, I mean, he's just a very witty guy.
Yeah.
He can take any mistake and make some kind of fun out of it and move on. I mean, he's really, really very good. I'm very happy that him and Vanna, signed on for, another 5 years, I think they've got.
Wow.
I mean, the show's doing great.
Yeah.
It's in syndication. I mean, that syndication money's pretty good.
Let's talk about a little bit about syndication and how that works. So a show is syndicated, so it's produced out in Hollywood, but then syndicated. Local television stations or local television groups buy this programming.
Correct. So you go to the convention, the NAB or whatever it is, and you go there and you put in bids for your market. And so here we are in Tampa, and you'll have 3-4 other general managers there from Tampa bidding on Wheel and Jeopardy, and you got to take them both. You can't take one. You have to take them both. So it's a pretty penny. And Sony takes the bids, and whoever's the highest bidder for the market wins.
Yeah. I wonder how much that's changed the price of those shows, because there is certainly more programming out there available to people, but there's only, one Price is Right. Well, there's on CBS, but there's only one Wheel, there's only one Jeopardy. So.
Mm-hmm. I have no idea what they get, truthfully. It's got to be a lot of money, and as fragmented as the viewership is because of cable and Roku and all these streaming devices, it still cleans up. I know it still does very good. I know it does bang up numbers here at CBS Tampa. So,
yeah, it used to be at times you would see them like what they call double stripping, where they would have it air twice, sort of leading into the news and at the end of the news, and. It was shows like that, or the Oprahs or whatever, leading into your newscast that could really improve your ratings dramatically. So
tremendously.
Yeah.
And Wheel and Jeopardy back to back. I mean, that's been the proven recipe, at least for these two shows.
Sure.
To air them back to back. You can't split them up. I don't think even Sony will let you split them up. You got to air them back to back.
Yeah.
So that's an edict from them. Because they do so well. One is such a great lead into the other. There you go.
We've heard from some viewers.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. Do we have any questions? Let's see.
We do indeed. Here you go. Let's throw this one up. Can you read that one?
Yeah. Another great show, Rich. I've got an unusual question for you. Where are you and Dave taping your podcast? It looks like they stuck you both in a small corner somewhere in the station. That could be your next behind-the-scenes photo. Really looking blah, 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 whatever. Yeah, well, let's show where we are.
Okay, this is exactly what's behind us. Boom.
Yes.
If you want to know where we're at, we are exactly in the middle of the newsroom with a backdrop behind us. But they're building us a studio.
Yeah, I know. This is great. This is great. So, yeah, we've got people all around who listen to this all the time. I'm sure they're trying to concentrate on doing the news.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. I actually took this particular picture on a weekend when nobody was around, just for this very reason, so I'd be intruding. But yeah, there's folks' desks on either side of us. I mean, there's Josh right there. Josh. Josh has to listen every day. I mean, there's... Can we keep it down? Yeah. So there's people everywhere.
I get to see, Josh is in my sightline. I get to see him grimace throughout this entire podcast.
Grimace?
No. Oh, no. That's the same thing as a smile.
Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha. So they're about to move us. So they're building us a new podcast studio. So thanks. That's a really good question.
That's great.
Let me see if I can find some more for you here real quick.
Okay. Jay Davis says, I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to Rich's journey in broadcasting and at TPIR. A true professional that has much respect for the Barker era. Keep up the good work.
Oh, thank
you. Do. I mean, you still call him Mr. Barker.
Absolutely.
Every episode has been great. Look into the Barker era with Rich. It will definitely make you laugh and cry at the history through the years on Stage 33. Rich, any thoughts on other show hosts that you didn't get to work with, such as Dennis James, Tom Canada, and even Doug Davidson. All the best gentlemen.
All pros, all icons in game shows, all guys that were there when game shows were at their heyday.
Sure.
Never got to work with any of them. Doug Davidson, I did get a chance to meet, and kind of became CBS TV friends because he was there doing the soap opera the whole time. What was it, Young and the Restless?
Yes.
And so one of my first days, I happened to see him in the hallway. I was like, "Pardon me, Doug." He was like, "Yeah." I said, "Rich Fields, I'm the new announcer on The Price." "Oh, well, Rich, pleasure to meet you." He was just a really sweet guy.
Yeah.
I said, "Man, you've heard it a billion times. I used to watch you all the time."
Sure, of course.
And so every time we'd see each other, or if he was sitting by himself at lunch, or if I was sitting by myself at lunch at the commissary, Doug would come over and say hi. So Doug Davidson was really cool. I wish I could have worked with Tom Kennedy. I did get a chance to work with back in 2 and 2.
Yeah. Don Wells?
Well, yeah, I'd worked with Don Wells, certainly, but I'm talking about game shows.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, golly. See, we get on the spot here, and I can't remember.
Yeah, we need to ask. We need to have somebody.
Love Connection.
Chuck Woolery.
Chuck Woolery.
Okay.
I got to work with Chuck Woolery.
Oh, yeah.
Who also ended
2
up
and 2.
2 and 2.
Yeah.
Also ended up being a really sweet guy. I did the live version with Chuck a couple of places. After bringing in some pictures, we went skiing at Mountain High.
Okay,
once
so
together.
we a while back we talked about not Gilligan, but the skipper too, not the millionaire and his wife, not the movie star, not the professor.
Yeah,
but I understand there was somebody else whom you met here.
Yeah, so you remember I did my first game show with Alan Hale Jr.
I remember that.
Gilligan's Island.
Good guy, you say? Great
really
guy.
Sweet guy.
Yeah.
And we ended up sharing the same agent, or I ended up sharing the same agent with Dawn Wells, who played Mary Ann on Gilligan's Island, and my wife and her ended up becoming really good friends.
No kidding.
For many, many years. There's my wife Christine and Dawn in the front row of The Price is Right.
What? How did this happen?
On the Halloween episode, Christine took her to the show.
Okay.
Christine took Dawn to the show one day, and they always sit cast and crew, family and friends in the very first row.
Oh, wow.
Behind Bidder's row. Not the green covered seats or the blue covered seats, but the seats right behind them. So if you're ever watching Price is Right, just before the call downs, they'll always pan across the audience, and they'll literally slow down and sort of stop here.
So this is these are the VIPs.
Correct.
Do they recognize when a Dawn Wells is in the audience? Do they mention it?
Well, Mr. Barker certainly would all the time. Yes, and it was part of his shtick.
Yeah.
So because it's kind of cool, when you're a star of a show and there's other stars in the audience, you want to point them out.
You bet.
So yeah, during commercial time, Bob would always. Hey, by the way, Rich, did you see who's in the audience today? I sure did, Bob, because I got to leave it for him. I can't say, well, yeah, it's Dawn Wells from that takes all Bob's thunder.
Your goal is just to tee it up for Bob and let him hit it out of the park.
Correct. So Bob would then say, how many of you watched Gilligan's Island before? And the whole crowd explodes, because a couple of them may have seen her already down there, and they know it's about to come. And he says, well, a guest of Rich's wife, Christine, is in the audience with us today. It's Dawn Wells, who played Mary Ann on
Gilligan's Island.
On Gilligan's Island, Dawn, would you stand up and take a bow? And so, they stand up and they say hello and they take a bow, and it's really kind of cool. And Dawn had a great time. I mean, we've got pictures of her in front of the big wheel and in front of the doors and everything. I actually ended up, because we had the same agent, I actually ended up doing a couple of gigs for her. She was the coordinator and the CEO of the Idaho Film Festival.
Oh.
So you may remember the story of me being called in by Sid Vintage to come into CBS. It was during hiatus, and Christine and I were about to fly out for a gig, and that's what it was. It was the Idaho Film Festival. It was really a lot of fun. It's a paid gig. I mean, you're not going to turn out money, especially when it's good money.
Right.
And so there's Dawn and I in Idaho, standing in front of a makeshift prize wheel and stuff. It was just a lot of fun. They bring in people, before and after films, and just have a good time with them and do all kinds of nutty stuff. And
she was kind of forever youthful, wasn't she?
She sure was.
Yeah.
And man, I tell you what, we stayed at her home there in Driggs, Idaho. Driggs, Idaho is where this film festival was at. She had a true log cabin. I mean, the big logs, the great big chinked logs, and killer cabinet. I loved it so much. I said, Dawn, what's property cost around here? She started telling me I was like to Christine on the way back, I was like, what do you think about getting something in Driggs, Idaho? 'Cause it's so beautiful.
Sure.
Right up against the Tetons.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's breathtaking.
It's just really beautiful.
Yeah.
So Donna really opened our eyes to that, and she was a really good friend. We were crushed when she passed away.
Yeah. It's
COVID.
Is that what it was?
Well, that's what's in the record now, yeah. But,
Wow.
yeah. So,
I mean, she wasn't that old.
no, not at all. I mean, somebody started a GoFundMe page for her. It was her hairdresser, I believe, saying that she was down and out and didn't have a dime.
Oh.
And there was actually a tweet from Dawn right at her last days, very close to her last days, and she says, wow, I'm amazed at the kindness and affection I've received from the current outpouring in regards to the GoFundMe page that's grabbing so much attention, and I want to address it. She said, a dear friend of mine, this is the hairdresser with a big heart, was trying to help me with some common issues we all understand and some of us must face. He created that page with love and emotion, like someone protecting their child, and she never said, hey, I need money or anything like that. He just kind of took it upon himself to go ahead and do this. It was all put in a trust, and I believe it was all donated, but she didn't need the money. I mean, she had a home in Toluca Lake. I mean, you know the area. It's a fairly affluent area.
Yes.
It's between Burbank and North Hollywood, and she had a beautiful home there. I mean, she did the smart thing. I mean, she had a home right here.
She did, in Tampa Bay area.
Yeah, Indian Rocks Beach for many years.
Right.
So Dawn had property. She did the right thing with her money and invested right, and she was by no means broke. So that was just a real crushing blow. Oh, I told you about the booth at Wheel. Yeah. This isn't the booth, but they called me in to do a special show. You know how Wheel goes on the road?
Yeah.
Well, they had cut a special show. What was it? It was something about the great outdoors, because I remember the opening act was Pat and Vanna in a canoe, cartoon Pat and Vanna's, in a canoe, and there's bees or mosquitoes buzzing around, and then you hear the audience, Wheel of Fortune, and it was something about the great outdoors, and Charlie didn't finish the show, or didn't even do the wraparound. I guess, I don't know if Charlie ever went on live locations with them or not. I'm not even sure, but this is me in a productions booth many buildings away on the Sony lot on a weekend voicing one of these specialty shows for Wheel. So
how long would that take you to do that?
About a half hour, I'd say. It's only a few minutes of copy, but with production and them trying to get tape rolling and certain nuances here and there and things like that. Sometimes I want you to recut stuff, but not long at all.
Well, and total time at Wheel of Fortune, how long were you there?
I did almost 60 episodes, 50 some episodes, so a few months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so and when you got the news, did you think this is it for my game show career? What did you think? That I'm going to go work for a local CBS station?
When I didn't get the job?
Yeah.
I was kind of actually oblivious to it because I was done, or I had done so many weeks already. I didn't know anything about them auditioning people.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a shock to you when you...
Well, yes and no. I mean, I knew they had to do something, and there was nobody talking to me saying, can you do this?
I see, yes.
You know what I mean? Can you come on? Are you free and clear? Well, Harry Friedman asked me that night, are you free and clear of CBS and Fremantle Media? Can you legally come do this for us? And I was completely free and clear. And so they knew I was free and clear, but I think there were just other forces at work.
Sure. Yep. As happens, you don't know always what's going on behind the scenes.
That's okay. I turned out. I ended up all right.
So
I landed on my feet. Because I went to work right away at CBS. As these 50-some, 60 episodes were being done, I was getting more solidified at CBS News.
Yeah.
And so that was all happening. It was all bubbling up, and okay, on this date, you're going to be the nighttime guy, and blah blah blah. And so by the time anything got around to me about Wheel and them auditioning other people or even selecting somebody else, I wasn't even thinking about it.
Compare the Price is Right taping schedule to how this tapes. I mean, you are live to tape it at the Price is Right. And how many shows did you do at one time and versus
Well, at Price,
Wheel?
we did 2 a day, 3 days a week.
Right.
At Wheel, we did 6 a day.
6 a day. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was...
and how many days a week?
I want to say 3. I want to say 3 days a week.
So like 18 shows
Again,
a
you're
week?
asking me stuff that I haven't thought about in,
Right.
in a decade, but yeah, a lot of shows.
Yeah.
So they're pumping them out. They're cranking them out. You know, the studios, the four walls, they're so expensive.
Yeah.
Even though Sony owns the lot, I mean, the money's still got to make sense. You know what I mean? The production company still has to lease it out from Sony, and I know it goes in this hand and it comes out into this hand. And say it's Sony and Sony, but there's budgets and it still has to be right. You know what I mean? So
was Merv Griffin around when you were? No, he was already gone.
No. I had him. Did I tell you I had a meeting with Merv planned? One of my first weeks in Hollywood, first days in Hollywood. And here I am, I'm trying to dog the biggest guys. I told you about meeting Dick Clark with the 2 Dobermans on either side of him. And so I was hell-bent on meeting Merv as well. And so I was dogging Merv Griffin Company to get a sit-down with Merv Griffin. And it was a no. And finally, one day, they put me through to his right-hand girl. And she said, well, you know, you've been so tenacious on this. Mr. Griffin's, he'll see you on this date at this time.
Wow.
And what's this all about? And I said, well, you know, I'm an upcoming game show guy, and you know, he's the king. You know, and just want to talk to Merv and get some insight. You know, anything at this point in my career would be a boon. You know.
You had not done prices.
No, I hadn't done anything. I'm homeless. I'm literally homeless.
Wow.
Living in my car still. You know, I don't think I'm even working at Universal yet. This is one of my first few days in Hollywood. And so at the particular day and at the particular time, I go down to Merv Griffin, and it used to be on, was it not Highland, maybe Cahuenga. It was a north-south street between Hollywood and Sunset. And Merv Griffin Enterprises was right there. And you know, I park my car and I walk up to him thinking, wow, oh my God, you know, very, very happy day in my life. I'm going to meet Merv Griffin, the game show king. I mean, and so I go in there and I check in, and the lady says, "Oh, you know, come with me, you know, to Mr. Griffin's office." And a nice, beautiful waiting room outside his office, and his lady was there, his executive secretary, and she said, "Hi, Rich." She says, "Mr. Griffin's not in today."
Oh.
But his right-hand man, Joe so-and-so, is going to see you today. And I thought right away, now, was this planned ahead of time? Did they know I wasn't going to meet Merv the whole time? Was I going to meet Merv and he just couldn't make it today? To make a long story short, so I meet with this other gentleman, and you know, certainly there was nothing they were going to offer me except good advice. And that good advice was get some tape. And I was like, get some tape, but you know, when you don't have a job, how do you get tape? I mean, it's a catch-22. I said, you know, manufacture something. Well, you can, you know, but the best thing would be some on-air, some real stuff where we can see, you know.
Some studio stuff.
It's so difficult in Hollywood, Dave. It's crazy difficult.
I mean, it's that old adage, you know, how do I get experience when I don't have a job, or, you know, I'm looking for somebody with more experience, and, you know, but if you hadn't been given an opportunity for that experience, how do you get that?
But they were sweet enough to see me. I mean, not that Merv saw me, but they were sweet enough to see me, and I knew. I mean, walking out of there, I might have been a little disappointed, but I knew, you know, they're dealing with people, big names, big celebrities, big game show guys. I really just did want some kind of advice or some kind of underling job that maybe I could start and be around production, and just to get, you know, the gist of things.
We want to remind people, if you're listening to this episode on your traditional podcast provider, sort of like Apple Music or Spotify, you can see most of the photos that we showed here today on this or any other episode. And so go there. You can also go to our Facebook page, which is important at facebook.com/ComeOnDownPodcast. Again, that's facebook.com, Come On Down Podcast. So we hope you will continue the questions coming our way.
Look where I stopped it. That's next week. If we can get our technical difficulties straighted out. Dave Ruprecht from Supermarket Sweep is going to be our guest next week.
That was a great show.
Really fun show. And he did it almost 15 years. I mean, I think really like 13 years he did the show. So that's a long time. I mean, I can't think, other than Bob Barker, I can't think of a show host that did a show that long. That's a long time. So it'll be interesting to talk with Dave.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to catch up with what he's doing these days, too.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, well, interesting day?
Yeah, fun. Interesting day. Quick little thing to throw out there. And again, this is sort of a tease because it's not solid yet, But I spoke with Vanna White.
Okay.
She's on hiatus. Both her and Pat are on hiatus right now. And I asked Vanna if she'd be on the podcast, and she said yes.
Oh, great.
It's just a matter of working it out with the production schedule and the folks at Sony, so I'm in touch already with the folks at Sony. It doesn't look like it's going to be till mid-July or later, but she certainly remembered me right away, and she was happy to do it. So
That's fantastic.
Vanna White coming to a podcast near you.
Yeah, she's coming on down to this podcast. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening today. Keep those
Yeah.
questions coming. We hope you do, and we hope you'll join us next week for another episode of
Come On Down!
Thanks for tuning in to Come On Down with Rich Fields. See more photos and videos mentioned on this episode. Plus, interact with Rich on Facebook at facebook.com/ComeOnDownPodcast or on Twitter at ComeOnDownPod. Have a question for Rich? Use Facebook Messenger to connect on our Come On Down Podcast Facebook page. And remember, new episodes are live every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern.